Sound Effect, and we're down here in Sarasota with Rob DeLuca of Spread Eagle, also known for his work with UFO, and he is currently on tour with Sebastian Bach, and we're here to see him tonight. Rob, thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure. How you doing, Todd?
I'm doing really good, man. It's really good to see you. It's been what? We've known each other 26 years, 27 years, somewhere around there.
I think a little longer, and we've only seen each other once in all that time since we used to hang out.
Yeah, last year, as a matter of fact, when you were with Sebastian and in town, I was looking up on stage and I'm going, man, does that ever look like Rob? And sure enough, it was. And I was really glad it was, because it was really good to connect with you again. Yeah, it had been such a long time and stuff. But, man, I remember some good times back at Livestock with 98 Rock and playing at ML Chasers and the Rocket Club and everything. Yeah. We used to hang out all the time back then and stuff. So that was a lot of good times. So what have you been doing with yourself lately?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm in Sarasota today. We're with Sebastian Bach. We're on tour across U.S. and Canada, and it's been a long tour, 7 weeks. And tomorrow we go to Dominican Republic for a show.
Nice.
So it's been a long tour, and it's been a really good tour. So we're having some fun. I'm kicking ass, lots of big crowds. So nice. It's good. It's going to be a lot of people here tonight.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. You're going to rock the country bar, right?
Yeah. But it's a cool place. It's like open. You can see from the sides, and I like it,
Cool. Yeah, I like different venues like that. That's probably a cool thing, seeing a bunch of different places as you're out there on the road and stuff. So they're
all different. They all sound different, reflective surfaces, and how the sound, how it sounds on stage. It's always very different each night. Each night it's very different.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to ask him questions, Scott?
Sure, absolutely.
Hey, Scott.
How you doing, Rob?
Good.
Say, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you started playing when you were 15.
Yeah, which is kind of late in this day and age, because we didn't have YouTube and all that. Where now there was a kid there last night in Orlando, and he must have been about 8, and he was, he had videos of him playing. I couldn't really see him because there was a lot of people, but
nice.
These kids learn pretty early, so I think it's kind of late at 15.
Yeah, well, in that day and age, but there wasn't the internet or anything like that. You actually started playing on bass though.
No.
No, you started playing on guitar.
Yes.
That's right. You
Yes.
started playing on guitar. What made you progress from playing?
Just necessity. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston for guitar, and I was hanging out with these guys in this band, and they needed a bass player, and I figured I would do it just to have some fun. But I really fell in love with the instrument because it's its own place in the band,
Right,
and
right.
I wasn't really that familiar with it, like being a kid and being into guitar. I was always listening to the vocals and the guitar, so I didn't really even pay that much mind to bass until that point. And then when I started playing, I was like playing just like a guitar player, and then my ears started opening up to that frequency, because really when I listened to records, I didn't really listen to that part that much,
Right,
I'd always be listening to the vocals and the guitar, and sometimes the drums, but not even the drums that much. And then when I started to just explore it, I fell in love with the whole concept of where the bass lies in the band and its function, and I didn't want to go back, So.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned vocals. Well, you sing too. So have you always been singing?
I've always tried to sing. Yeah, I enjoy singing a lot. So, and I think it's another instrument. Like if you're just playing, you're making music with one instrument, and if you can sing, that's 2 instruments you're doing.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
So it makes you more chordal, if you know what I mean. Like you're making more music, So therefore, you can be more creative because you can, it's 2 notes you're adding instead of just one.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, so with that band, was that Bang that you're referring to?
It was.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know you went to Berklee. That's awesome, brother.
I did. I went for a few years. It was really a great learning experience. I was just a rock and roll kid,
Right.
and from not a huge city, I came from Wilmington, Delaware, and I got there, and it was all like first chair jazz band in high school, like all kids who were like first chair jazz, second chair jazz, reading music
Really
and
intricate stuff.
just, it's just a whole level of, their abilities, not as much playing, but like understanding theory, harmony, reading music. I didn't know how to do hardly any of that. I did know how to do some of it. That's how I got in, but I knew the fretboard really well. That's what I showed them. I sent them audition tapes.
Cool.
And I studied with a guy named Ron Dinest, and he had gotten a kid in Berkeley with a method he was teaching. I was guitar, obviously.
Right.
And it was all about knowing the fretboard, So there was still a lot of things I didn't know. I wasn't a great reader, I didn't understand harmony that much, even though I understood chords really well. So I got in, and I've realized there's a lot of people who know a lot about music at a very young age,
really
and I was like, whoa.
Really is.
So that was a real important moment for me, or moments of of the years realizing this and thinking about it, because that's your competition, like, without sounding too competitive, like, all these people are going to be trying to get gigs, and so I realized I had to get very, very serious about music. I always loved it 100% as serious as you can be, but I didn't know how to practice. Like, you learn things, you learn how to practice, how to be more efficient, and like I said, you learn things about harmony and theory. So I just realized I had to work really hard, and I started working a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's not that I didn't want to work hard before that. I just didn't know that. Like when you learn something, you don't know it until you learn it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I thought I was doing good, and then I realized I got to work harder, and then I started on that path. Started working with a metronome every day and reading music, which I haven't done in a while, but I needed to do it in school, and so I did it a lot. And I enjoyed it there. But I think the two biggest lessons I learned at Berkeley was ear training and how serious you have to be.
Right, for sure. So was that with Paul and Tommy? Because I read that it was with that band, Bang, that you finally met Ray, and then Spread Eagle was formed from that.
Close. That's close to the story. Paul was already out of Berkeley. He had either graduated or he had left, I'm not sure. And Tommy didn't go to Berkeley, but they were both living there. And the short story is, the band broke up. Paul moved with his girlfriend to New York, found Ray, joined Ray's band, met Ray, joined Ray's band at the time. That didn't work out. This was all within a pretty short period of time. And he called me, and we went down and formed Spread Eagle.
Nice. I don't think I've ever told you, but Spread Eagle is by far, your two albums are two of my all-time top 10 albums, and you guys were always by far one of my top 10 favorite bands of all time stuff, so it's pretty great. And it's also great that you were
really well, and we hung out a lot, so it was nice that we had that really bond. Awesome, so. You guys were 98 Rock. You guys were really supporting us, and we appreciated that. So we came down and did Livestock a couple times, and so cool. It was just a good feeling of you guys. You were like family to us, and with our management too. I remember they were really close with you.
Yeah, your management was awesome.
Charlie,
they were always, he was always so cool to me when you guys would come into town, and that was fantastic. So all you guys were really great to me, and I always appreciated that, and we always got along really great.
Likewise,
so.
Likewise.
My wife actually has a ringtone through these eyes.
Wow.
And I hear it for an alarm. I hear it every day. I mean, actually, she wanted to be here. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here. But that's true. I mean, it's a great song. Great song.
Thank you.
What influence do you have in that? I mean, what involvement do you have in that? I mean, I love that.
In that meaning,
like the song "Through These Eyes." It's a great tune. It's got a lot of feel, a lot of emotion in it.
Well, we're all writers, but that particular song, like if certain songs I won't have as much to talk about, but that particular song I was very involved in. I wrote the lyrics and the vocal melodies.
Oh, cool. Cool, and that's one of the big things, part of the song. I mean, you listen to it. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're all very creative guys. Paul wrote the music to that. Like Ray wrote "Scratch Like a Cat," like before Like that was one of the demo songs, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing, you know? And a great writer too, you know, because that was a really crafty song. So Ray and Paul wrote that. So yeah, we're all pretty creative, but Through These Eyes is a pretty special song.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, so now you got all this. Sebastian Bach, that's when that came into play, right? How did you get
around
involved
then?
there?
Yeah, he liked the band,
Okay.
and he would say nice things about us in the press, which was really appreciated because we needed all the help we can get.
Yeah,
Every
of
band
course.
does.
Sure,
It's a
absolutely.
great compliment from someone like
Yeah,
that, too.
and he was on top at that point. There was just him and Vince Neil and Axl and Bret Michaels. They were the big names of the genre, you know, and a few others. But I'm just saying he was within that elite group. So he was saying nice things. He came down and sung with us when we played near his house in Jersey, which was cool. So we respected each other, and in the early 2000s, we got in touch with each other, and he had mentioned he's going to need a bass player soon.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
My first gig was 13 years ago. In 2 days, it'll be 13 years to the day.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
November
Very cool.
5th, I think, was our first show in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you were with Sebastian Bach, and you were touring around with it was Helmet, and you guys were opening up for Guns N' Roses. As a matter of fact, I heard a story, something about the Canadian tour. Their bass player couldn't do it. So what did you end up doing? Tell us about that. It's cool.
I ended up playing in both support bands on the Guns N' Roses Canadian tour, maybe 2009 or I'm not sure, right around there, 2009, 2010, because the bass player had some prior legal issues and they wouldn't let him into Canada. So it was
And you found out when that he couldn't get over?
about 4 o'clock in the afternoon for their 8 o'clock set.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So what'd you do?
So I learned the songs, man. I went to work.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty impressive, man. It really shows me how dedicated you are as a musician and how committed you are to your craft.
I was also very committed to the tour. Like the band before them, the Eagles of Death Metal, they got kicked off the tour after one show, and they were saying some really horrible things in the press about Axl and Sebastian. And even though it's a very successful tour, Guns N' Roses is obviously a very successful tour.
Right.
There was this dark cloud that all of a sudden was over it, just very temporarily, because they didn't work out. Then they were talking shit in the press, which was, I felt, I don't know them, but I felt it was very unprofessional. Some tours don't work out, and sometimes it's just style. It's not about ability, talent. You have to just be man enough to accept that aspect of the business. Everything doesn't work out for any of us.
Right.
So I thought it was very petty that they were acting like that, and all of a sudden there was this weird feeling like, the talk about the tour was for a couple of days really negative and in that regard. And then Helmet came on, and this was their first show. So I was like, all right, we don't want more problems. So I was very,
Instead of getting another opening act.
or just
more
just
That's cool.
negative press, So,
Yeah.
so
Darn Border Patrol, man.
yeah, so I just took it really seriously, and it was fun. And
Yeah, that's very cool, man. Definitely opened up an opportunity for you.
yeah, it was. I love Helmet. It's totally different style.
Yeah, they're great.
But I've played that style
Very cool.
in bands in the past, and I've been in bands that have been influenced by Helmet and by those type of bands. So.
Very cool. So with Spread Eagle and now Sebastian Bach as well, you, in my opinion at least, have performed with probably two of the greatest metal singers out there by far. Ray is always a monster vocalist, and of course Sebastian, everybody who knows Sebastian knows that. So how does that feel for you to be able to play with such accomplished and obviously talented musicians?
Well, it's very great. you want people to notice what you're doing, and if you have singers on that incredible level, people come out. You know, there's already like 600-700 pre-sales today. You know, and
Yeah.
that's just pre-sales. So you know, like you don't want to roll into a club and play for 20 people. If it happens, it
Right.
happens.
Yeah,
But
that's-
Right.
so
that happens.
if you're working with singers on that level, it's not likely that will happen. You know?
Right.
So is there
That's
any
likely, yeah.
particular musician out there that you have always dreamed of playing with that you would love to do?
Well, I would say Malcolm Young, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah. That's a good one though, for sure. Who
And
are your?
another one would be Rick Wright, from keyboard player from Pink Floyd, but that's not going to happen.
You're a
Yeah,
Pink
that's
Floyd
awesome.
fan?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
where does that come into play? I mean, now I know I think you were involved in UFO first, right?
But no,
was it-
Sebastian first.
Okay, but I mean, after that, you started, because I want to talk about the psychedelic band, but that wasn't the next one you were involved in,
Oh,
was it?
okay. Of
What
Earth.
wasn't the next one you were involved in?
Of Earth has been together for quite a while. I think we were together before I was playing with Sebastian. Yeah.
Okay.
And before UFO.
Before UFO?
Yeah.
Before UFO.
Okay.
So I mean, but you're really into Pink Floyd. So I mean, what kind of influence did that have? I mean,
Definitely on Of Earth, it was definitely a big influence. Pink Floyd, like you always want to dream of sounding like a band, and you end up not sounding anything like them, which is
Right.
which is probably the best thing.
Sure.
You know, the worst thing would be to sound like someone else because you're never as good as the original.
Cologne, right?
Do you know
But,
what-
we would love to sound like Pink Floyd, but we sound nothing.
do you know what's also cool though
We
is
do have organ, and ripping guitars and beautiful melodies,
Nice.
what's also cool though is you're singing.
Yes.
You're singing.
I sing,
That's cool.
I sing in Of Earth. I sing lead vocals and play bass.
Nice.
And some great musicians in the band. A guitar player named Paul Casanova, who's fantastic. A keyboard player named Rick Chirello. And Rick DeLuca, my cousin from Spread Eagle, has played drums for us.
Oh, cool.
Oh, so he's
Very
your
cool.
cousin.
He's your
Yeah,
cousin.
okay.
Very nice.
Very nice. I was wondering if he was your brother or your cousin.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So how did all that progress into you being with UFO? That's a pretty great accomplishment as well.
Yeah, I mean, the band is still fantastic. The way that happened was I was playing with Sebastian, and we started touring with Guns N' Roses, and they kept bringing us out on tour, like over a period of like 5 years. They kept inviting us out on tour, not constantly. We would go home,
Right.
take breaks. They would take breaks, but we were with them for like 100 shows,
Nice.
and which was probably the experience of my lifetime. Like I probably learned more from that than anything.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the learning curve is incredible. In a few days, you're getting used to playing to that many people. It's amazing. So at the time, they had Ron Thal, Bumblefoot on guitar, and he's friends with Vinnie Moore. And Vinnie told Ron they were just looking for a solid bass player who's like a cool dude, So Ron recommended me. I didn't have to audition or anything. I just showed up for a rehearsal one day before a tour, and we were off running.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Ron.
So you also did some work with.
He has a great new band called Sons of Apollo, so you should check it out. It's really
Absolutely, we'll check it out for sure. So I see you also did some work with Joan Jett and my personal favorite guitar player, George Lynch.
Yeah. Well, George was right before Sebastian. Sebastian was before UFO. My first show with Sebastian, as I was saying, is 13 years.
2 days.
In 2 days, it'll be 13 years to the day.
Nice.
And I was playing with George, and he said, we have a show in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I was like, cool. And then I got a call from Bass saying, we have a show in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I think you're already doing it with George Lynch. I'm like, yeah. He goes, you want to play in both bands? I was like, definitely, But George didn't want me to do that, so I ended up playing with Sebastian. So
that's how that came about then.
There you go.
That's pretty wild.
I had only been with George for a year or so before that.
Now, when you got involved in music, I mean, even before you went to Berkeley, I mean, all that, you were listening to music. So, I mean, you've had experience not only playing, but behind the scenes producing, right?
Well, I'm producing the new Spread Eagle record.
Very nice.
And UFO produced their last record, which we all were part of that. So yeah, me and all my friends were such rock and roll kids. We loved rock and roll so much since I was very young. So I was brought up on all that classic rock and early metal and classic pop like Beatles and Steely Dan and all that stuff, Elton John, all that really well recorded good stuff. You know, so it all creeps in, and I think producing, almost everyone has Pro Tools today, and they know how to record and use all the digital plugins, and that's important stuff. But I think the most important thing of producing is just understanding songs and how to bring out the best of a song or enhance a song, and that's just, you just have to know music to be good at that, and I think that just takes time.
Right, absolutely.
Just
So you played a lot of places though. I mean, you played in every state and stuff. I'm
just in the last few weeks.
Oh my goodness. So let me ask you this. I mean, you got a favorite place you like? I mean, what out of all this? I mean, what's a favorite place you like to play?
Well, I would say the craziest places are my favorites, just because the audiences are just wild. So you have to say Brazil. Let me see. There's a South American country on the West Coast. What is that? Where's Tom Araya from of Slayer?
Oh, Mike.
Peru?
No, it's near. Anyway, it'll come to me. I think the Movie Star Arena is there. But anyway, so Brazil, Quebec, Canada is crazy.
What do they do? I mean, why?
It's just they're just so into it. It's not like anything particular that anyone does in any of these places. It's just the level of intensity.
It's one of those shows where you can just say anything over the microphone and everybody goes crazy, or
yeah, pretty much.
Very
Also
cool.
Poland.
Those are fun.
Also
great.
Poland. It really rocks.
Nice.
When I started going there, I didn't think that, and that was probably 10 years ago, or more maybe. But the last couple times I've gone there, I've been like, oh my God, this is crazy,
Yeah.
So those are the places, and I'll think of that South American country. It'll come to me in a second.
I don't know if what
Chile,
you'd ask.
Santiago, Chile.
Oh, okay. Man, I
So-
don't know if what you'd ask this, but what's the worst place you played? Like, I mean,
Yeah. What's the worst experience?
I mean, I want to hear like. I'm sure you probably had more than one. So
I'm not avoiding that question, but nothing comes
Okay.
to mind. But see, it takes a few seconds.
That's
Chile
all right.
came to me in a second.
Okay.
But, okay, so what was a bad experience for me? Probably being like a time where I was really sick or something. Like I remember one time with UFO, I had the flu so bad I could only get out of bed for a few days to do the show and then go right back to bed, because just that hour and a half is basically all the energy I could get up. I was so depleted. And they were good sports about that, trying to, keep me as healthy as possible. Other than that, in Philly recently, in the last few years, I went to visit my girl, and I went back down on a bus, and I realized all my stuff had been stolen on the bus ride.
Oh, man.
So I was like dressed, like in sweatpants and stuff.
Yep,
I
nothing.
ended up. She came down and brought me some stuff because I live in New York, and it's only 3 hours away or so. But that was a bad experience. I can't think of too much else though.
I mean, that's not a bad thing either, though. It's not bad.
So, Spread Eagle, you got something coming out this coming year, correct?
Coming year 2019, we have a record coming out on Frontiers, and it's really coming out great. The vocals are 95% done. The guitars are 95% done. The drums and bass are done. So basically, I'm out here. I'm still working on it while I'm out here. That's the beauty of Pro Tools.
Yeah, for sure.
But when I get back, a bunch of things have to be done. So I get back on November 21st, and I should be done it by the end of the year.
So
Nice.
when
That'd be
you
great.
Have it out. When do you think it'll be out?
Basically, I'll submit it and get in their rotate, in their line,
Yeah.
in their queue,
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when that is, but I guess they'll let me know that, and that's fine. You know, you need a few months to set up a record
Sure,
with press and all that.
sure.
So I would think definitely not in the first quarter of the year. You know, sometime after the first quarter of 2019.
Well, cool. We'll have to get you and Ray to come into the studio and actually do an in-studio thing. That'd be really nice to see both of you guys together. And you know, I actually saw Ray. I think it was like 2 weeks before I saw you with his other band, and they were with Tesla on tour and stuff. And I'd just seen him, and I was like, "Wow, hey Ray!" I didn't even realize that was him at first, and because I was there a little late to miss him, but I saw him right after the show, and then I come in to see Sebastian Bach, and I see you. So what have you got going on? Plans for the future with Sebastian Bach and also with UFO?
Well, things start with Sebastian. Next February, we go out on the Legends of Rock cruise.
Nice.
Which will be cool. My friend plays drums for Roger Daltrey, and he'll be on the cruise, and some bands I really like Kansas, will be on it. So it just seems like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That goes to Bahamas or something.
That seems like it'd be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. So that's in mid-February, and then UFO starts up on their 50th anniversary farewell tour. Wow. So we start in UK on March 7th, which is my mom's birthday, and we do the UK for about 3 weeks. Then we do some festivals in the summer. I'm hearing rumors of that, and I'm also hearing rumors of a fall tour in the U.S.
Nice. That'd be real nice.
Yeah.
If you ever want to get some exposure for any of that, man, you know, come on the show. We'll be glad to have you, man. So.
Yeah, it's going to be the last chance to see the band, and the band is still fantastic, so I strongly recommend.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to catch that for sure. So anything else that you particularly want to talk about? You said you have a website, right? A bass. Yeah, you are like probably one of the busiest musicians I think I've ever known. But that's awesome, man.
Well, when you're on the tour bus, there's a lot of traveling. There's a lot of time on the bus. You know, the show's only an hour and a half long. So, you know, there's a lot of hours in the day. And what are you going to do? You're going to watch TV, or you're going to get drunk, or, you know, like there's a lot of just time you can waste. But I figured, well, I might as well do something productive.
Good use,
So I built this. I'm really into vintage basses, you know, being a bass player and playing vintage basses on stage. I'm really into just everything about them. So I built this site with this German programmer named VintageBassWorld.com. And it's just it's like a geeky information site for bassists,
right,
about gear. If you want to see if something is genuine and not a forgery, or just interested in when they changed this design or that, or what original case should look like. All the parts,
guitar,
all the parts of the bass. So
that's awesome.
It's
really cool.
It's Fender, Gibson, Rickenbacker, Music Man, Ampeg, and it starts with the 1951 precision bass, and it goes from 51 to 1983, and it's just dozens of different models, hundreds of pages, thousands of pictures, and it's all vetted information. So it's basically like a book. It's an encyclopedia of vintage basses and their stock parts. And it's the largest vintage instrument site in the world.
Give us that
Fantastic.
website again so we can.
It's VintageBassWorld.com.
There you go.
Awesome, man.
VintageBassWorld.com. Bass players got to check that out.
So what's your favorite bass?
My particular favorite bass is my 1966 Fender Precision.
That's the one you're playing right now.
It's the one I play with Sebastian and Spread Eagle. I used it on the last two UFO records. I use it for almost all my recordings. It's not valuable. It's been bastardized and routed, not by me, but by the previous owners. But it just sounds better. I have ones that are much older that are worth more money. It just sounds great. So I would have to say that's my favorite bass.
Nice. Any more?
It's just so comfortable. You know, I've played it since Spread Eagle, since the old days.
Yeah. Oh, that was the bass you were playing way back then.
Yeah. Well, at first I had a black one. It's the one right after that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nice. Very nice, man. Any more questions, Scott?
Well, I'm just excited. It's going to be a good show. It's going to be a good show.
Glad you guys are here.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on the show. I mean, like Todd was saying, if you guys want to come on and
We will.
do a little
We
jamming,
will.
very cool,
We
awesome, very nice.
Before the record comes out, we'll come down and promote it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that'd be
sounds like a great idea.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea. Very
Thanks,
good, Rob.
guys.
Awesome.
Is Ray still
Ray's
up in
amazing.
Jacksonville, right? Or up in that area?
He goes between Brooklyn and South Florida.
Okay, South Florida.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, Rob, thank you very much for
Appreciate it.
being on the show.
My pleasure.
It's called The Sound Effect, and
Sound Effect.
make sure you tune in for more. And this is Rob DeLuca from Spread Eagle, UFO, and Sebastian Bach.